put it. And it's one avenue I see that can create a level playing field for posterity. Basically, whoever you are, so long as you're a Nigerian, you should be proud to be alive, to be, alive at this age, because it provides an economic balance, and it is difficult to almost impossible to monopolize it. So wherever you stand on God's earth in Nigeria, under you could be something. Where you stand, it's like there could be something, and there is a chance for everyone. For the first time in my own lifetime, the world looks to Africa. They might not say it outwardly and in the media, but the world right now are looking at us. The Asians are already in Nigeria, boots on ground. They're in villages. They're in all those mining sites, legally or illegally. They're extracting, they're exploring. Now, the regulatory arm of the country have really done a good job, not without challenges, but they've done a good job in trying to sanitize the illegal part to see that every gram or ton of anything being extracted or carted, exported, isn't exported without record. Now, the Americans actually had an advantage with Canada and Australia and all the other places where they had critical metals. And it made it difficult for the Asians to break through. So they couldn't really renegotiate a better deal. And they tried to go to the STAN countries, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan. But they found some major challenges, and especially what is the obvious one is the Russia-Ukraine war. And they had already tried to establish there and get a chain or some channel to get these resources, right? Now the war broke out, and that became difficult for them to transact.
Mohammed, how far? What's up? You called me.
And we are getting close to the net zero target.
Say again.
So basically what we are able to do, right, is to provide the world right now, especially the Asians that have 85% control of the market, the resource to meet up with the global target of net zero. So I don't think we would really comprehend to the best of our ability the opportunity right now in front of us. The entire world, especially the Asians that are in charge of these things, that are controlling a lot of these things, are looking to us to supply the world with the minerals and the metals that are required for the transition, the energy transition. So the time is now for us, basically. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Sadiq. And as your colleague also rightly said, it was good to actually hear your perspective as one who is on the trading side and equally dealing with the international community. Thanks for that perspective. Over to you, Mr. Tony. Sir, same question, your perspective. What's the current outlook of the sector from your point of view?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Janet, Dr. Janet, rather, Adeyemi. Thank you. I'm a big fan. A lot of the meetings I attend, even in the Senate, some of our sessions, women in mining always pops up, and your energy is very well appreciated, ma'am. So keep up the good work. I just thought to say that before I say what I have to say else. So this is what I'd have to say. I mean, I've been actively involved on the side of consulting and business development for over 10 years, and has exposed me to so much. I like to look at the Nigerian solid mineral sector as a rough diamond, or diamond in the rough. If you look at it from the perspectives that I've seen it, you see the potential, but it becomes a bit unfortunate that sometimes the leadership doesn't appreciate or understand what needs to be done pragmatically to solve some of these problems. It's not rocket science. Nigeria is a resource-rich country, solid, liquid, and gas. But the focus on the solid and on the liquid rather, which is crude oil and gas, which is your LNGs, has denied the solid mineral sector of the attention it deserves. And so it created a lacuna that all sorts of non-state actors have taken advantage of. And so there are many sides, as it were, to revamping the sector. I break it down basically into the governance issues, which there are a myriad of. When we start to talk about governance, I'm sure we can highlight some of those issues and the opportunities also that the issues present. You also have the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream issues and its attendant opportunities as well. So Nigeria is blessed to have a very, very rich resource base because of our geological setting. For those who are geologists, we have 3 geological settings, which is the Pan-African Basement Complex. It's a geological setting that's a lot of the gold, the pegmatites associated in those settings. You have the younger Mesozoic granites, and then you have the, sorry, I'm being a little technical with the terms. There's not a name I have for them. The Mesozoic younger granites and the Cretaceous tertiary sedimentary basins. What these three geological settings mean is that we have a very diverse base of minerals. But you see, is one thing to have the minerals, is another thing to be able to sustainably, extract those minerals, process those minerals, add value to those minerals, and then connect the financial services industry to that industry. So that's the perspective. I look at everything from, it has the linkages and the end-to-end. Nigeria is truly blessed in terms of mineral resource, and I'm sure with certain things I've seen going on right now, we would have a much improved governance ecosystem, and it will be more attractive to foreign direct investors or people who want to come in and take advantage of the opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that insight as well, Mr. Tony. So let's really get a bit dip into this conversation now. What are some of this solid minerals that basically right now at the forefront of trade opportunities out of Nigeria? And I carefully want us to respond. Yes, we do recognize the fact that there's a global demand, but we also understand that, even within the African region itself, there's a high need, okay, for some of these products. And maybe we sometimes just need to focus on our own continental trade opportunities as against, just an aggressive approach to just, outside the shores of Africa. So if you don't mind, Dr. Janet, ma'am, please take a lead on that, just to be more specific.
Thank you so much, Sahid. And it's like you read my mind, because I knew that when we were some 6 years ago, when the African Continental Free Trade Agreement came on board, a committee was set up, you understand, to trigger the operations across Africa. And you find out that different committees were set up to look at the different components of it, state of origin, where a particular product comes off, how the mobility, how you track it, and who does what, and how eventually it gets to the markets. And you look at Africa as a country, 55 countries. Look at the population, add together. Nigeria is projected to get about 230 million by 2030. With a higher population of over 60% youth population. Take countries like that and add up whatever product you are able to produce in Africa and circulate within Africa is enough to even make every African country comfortable. But like Soundcourt spoke, Tony, the problem is leadership. Right now, if you look at the East African belt, I had a presentation in DC last year. Is it this year? Yeah, that's in the CSPF forum, which I represent West Africa and Central Africa. And we looked at it, and you said, in East Africa alone, look at the copper, the manganese, the lithium that is coming from that axis. Look at West Africa. Look at the gold from Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Nigeria. Then look at the gems across, especially in countries like Nigeria. Look at the emerald from Zambia. Look at the copper from Zambia. You can go on and on. You understand? So we have what it takes. What we lack technology. We don't have the technology. And when you don't have technology, you are looking at the material, you cannot convert. What do you use to convert? The energy penetration, as we talk in Nigeria, in Africa, is still extremely very poor. And then we have the natural energy, that is sunlight. That is, I'm talking about solar. You can use solar, but do we have the technology? Are we working together? So these are the limitations, if we must speak. And you see, I want to speak directly to you because I wear two caps, diaspora and Nigeria, you understand? So the thing is that the truth of it is that we need to focus on what we should focus on. We don't all have to run into the mining sector because Nigeria is a one-way traffic. And that's the one that hurts. If you see when gas stations are coming up, everybody is into gas, because we refuse to put on thinking caps. We like imitating. Whereas if we take the gold, for instance, and we want to work with gold, I decided to isolate and pick gold and gem. Because when I saw the staggering figures of what Nigerians spend on gold, I said, let us take the gold. And we started what we call the Lagos Gold and Gemstones, as a gemstone conference and exhibition. We did not just arrive at it like that. We looked at Lagos as being strategic. When you talk of the fashion headquarters in Africa, you cannot miss out Lagos. When you talk about the financial capital, I'm not talking of stolen funds. I'm not talking of looted funds. I'm talking of hard-earned funds from business. It is Lagos. When you talk about the natural geographical location, where you have entrance, from different sources, sea, land, air, it is Lagos. You understand? So in terms of market, the users, the people who use it, all you have to look at, even when you go to China, you go anywhere, they say, do you want, go and Google. And I think my sister, I'm looking at Victoria, they say, because Nigerian jewelry, bogus big jewelry, that's what we like. See our men, the chain, see our traditional leaders. You understand? So that means that that's one business we can even take from A to Z and see how we improve on it and see what we are earning. Practical. Same thing with gemstones. But what do we do? You understand? Everybody now is chasing lithium. Everybody is chasing this. I'm sorry, Sadiq, I'm not hitting you. But we forget about what you call technological evolution. Already the world is leaving behind lithium. That's the funny thing. Because the rate of turnover of technology now is great. But there are some minerals that will never leave the stage. Gold will never leave. Silver will never leave. Gold, as we've been hearing of gold since before Mansa Musa. You understand? And we still continue to hear the tales around gold. So for me, I believe that those are the things government need to be strategic about. Be strategic about the kind of minerals we want to use. What is it we can consume, the African consumption? What is it we have the capacity to develop? You understand? And create templates for it. Then the leaders in Africa, I'm happy that Dr. Aleke told us that now they created what they call the African Mineral Strategic Group. But before that, there was what you call the AMDC by African Union, of which I'm actively involved. You understand? The African Union created an agency, AMDC, that by 2063, you understand, will be completely sustainable to drive the sector. But is there cooperation? Let's a Nigeria want to move from here to Zambia. I was locked out despite being invited by African Union from entering Ethiopia. It took a lot of diplomatic intervention, myself and the Egyptian counterpart. Why? Because Ethiopia was fighting Nigeria. Petty things like that we can't access, and yet on paper we have it. So these are things that need to be addressed. Why do I need a visa to move from Nigeria to Zambia? Why do I need a visa to move from Nigeria to Namibia? So these are corridors These are issues we have to look at. Then we have to actually walk along energy corridors. You understand? Maybe because you said 1 hour and I don't want to take people's time. You understand? But I tell you that we need to look at our policy. We look at and then be sincere with ourselves. You understand? In terms of diplomatic relationships. You understand? Where we submerge our ego, identify the minerals, look at our technology, infuse it into our educational curriculum, you understand, such that from the beginning, you understand, we're able to build the needed skills. We are not shipping out our job, shipping out our products, because right now, every lithium you ship out, you are shipping out job, you are shipping out products, you are shipping out everything. If we can attack all these things within the continent, then it will translate to growth. But anything short of that, you understand, we just continue to labor, you know, saying we are the largest this, we are the largest that, we have this, we have that, but it will not translate to growth. Thank you. Let me pause here for a while.
Thank you, ma'am. I know, leaving you can take the whole hour, but again, these are actually practicable, feedbacks and also real-time update because of, again, your active engagement. So we do appreciate, those insight. Having said, again, this is a NAPAC-CDI monthly webinar series. Today, we're focused on the mining sector, and we've been enjoying, feedback and contribution from our guest speakers. I do encourage you to visit our website for you to know more about us. We're actively building our database of diaspora professionals who we want to basically be able to match to projects in Nigeria and also engage in projects, and also engage, in projects from Nigeria while still in their various host countries. Because we do believe that, to address the issues of Nigeria, no country is immune of political instability. No country is immune of, its economic woes. But the best way is to always prefer a solution and actively think of best ways, for us to get things done. As said in, multiple media platforms and of course across various financial institutions in the past years, the diaspora community alone rebates over 25 billion, on an annual basis to Nigeria. If we can just imagine, just even 10% of that amount, in the right hands of private institutions and strategic professionals like ours, for us to utilize these funds in improving on the economy of Nigeria within a 5-10 year time frame. We definitely know what that can be. And this is exactly part of what NAPAC-CDI is trying to do. We are the go-to resource. We are a trustworthy professional group of people for us to be able to take things on. And I really, again, appreciate you all making time to join us. Please utilize the chat box, visit our website as we progress, in our efforts to improve the economy of Nigeria and, of course, improving on the economy of our various host communities in the diaspora. I'll go back to our guest speaker now. And I'll be taking on Mr. Tony. Dr. Janet has led a very strong foundation across, what some of the challenges are, while also emphasizing, what some of the opportunities are, referencing also some of the products in terms of solid mineral products. I know Mr. Tony is actively involved as well, both from a policy standpoint. And in fact, when you talk about data, I know, that's something that he also has very, significant resource and access to. So I encourage us to be a little patient and pay attention to our guests. We can't answer all questions today, but definitely we'll try to cover as much as we can. Mr. Tony, sir, over to you.
So I want to know what your question is so I can minimize time. I'll just answer as directly as.
Good. So the question is, from your point of view, what are some of the solid minerals that, Nigeria basically has right now that we can focus on in order to improve on the economy? That's one. And if I could lay off the back of that, is also giving us an insight into what are some of the needs that can help us improve on those, on delivering more on those explorative opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Said. So Nigeria already I think when in 2016 had identified 7 strategic minerals based on the amount of data available when Dr. Kayode Fayemi came in as minister, I think in 2016, and he developed the mineral and mining roadmap, or the solid mineral roadmap. These minerals that the government identified was iron ore, bitumen, limestone, lead, zinc, coal, gold. How many is that? 7? Have I called 7? Yeah. iron ore, lead, zinc, bitumen,
That's about
gold,
6.
barytes.
All
But
right, gotcha.
Yes, so these minerals were those that the government identified, but it's stated clearly in the roadmap that that's by no means exhaustive. This list can be updated based on data, based on demand, and all of the other market forces and market indices. Okay. However, it's best to look at the opportunity from mineral classes because of the audience. Now, broadly, these classes are the precious minerals, which is the gemstones. The precious minerals would be your primary and secondary gemstones. For primary gemstones, there's just 4 of them: ruby, emerald, diamond, and sapphire. So for those who have some background, aluminum oxide, that's the half chemistry background. A lot of people don't like chemistry, so you will struggle a bit, just a little bit, with some of these names. But the corundum family is the family of the sapphire and the ruby. They're both aluminum oxide. Okay. Now the ruby is not, I'm not too sure, but from my investigations, the rubies from Nigeria is not as good as the sapphires from Nigeria. Nigeria has very good sapphires that come from Kaduna, very good sapphires that come from the Mambila Plateau, and very good sapphires that come from Boko Haram zone in Borno State, that I'm aware of and that I have seen. So there's opportunities like that in gemstones. Those are primary gemstones. Secondary gemstones, you have like tourmalines, you have like aquamarines, what an emerald is a beryl, okay? So when a beryl is green, it's called an emerald. When a beryl is like turquoise blue, it's called an aquamarine, but it's the same family. So once you have to have interest, first of all, to be able to understand what these things are, then understand their value. So the secondary gemstones, Nigeria also has a few, like I mentioned, this quartz family, like the citrines, the morganites, and those types of stones we have. Now that's one class, which is the precious minerals. Then you have the metallic ores as well, another opportunity. Within the metallic ores, you then have them classed into your precious metals, like Dr. Adeyemi mentioned, which is your gold and your silver. Those are precious metals. And then your PGMs, I don't know, PGMs means your platinum group metals, your rhodium, palladium, iridium, osmium, that whole family are all collectively called PGMs. We have a lot of those. No, not a lot. We have a few, like rhodium in Osun State, for example, that's confirmed. So some platinum group metals have been proven to exist in Nigeria. The next class will be your industrial minerals after your metallic. Oh, sorry. Within your metallic ores, you have your precious metals. Then you have your minor metals. Minor metals will be in the class of your manganese, your tantalite, and your niobium and things like that. Then you have your base metals also, like your lead, your zinc, your aluminum, your copper, and the rest of them. Almost everything I've mentioned exists in Nigeria, if not everything, in rich deposits. Then you have your class of industrial minerals, which is where you would have your barytes. Sometimes it's good to understand this from a commercial perspective. They say miners forget that investors need to understand the end-to-end. So barite, for example, is what you use as a weighting agent for drilling mud. So people who drill for oil or explore for oil need barite to prevent blowouts. Barite is also used in the glassmaking industry. So you have barite, you have feldspar, you have gypsum, you have kaolin, which is what you use for your China ware. All of these exist in Nigeria under industrial minerals. Then you also have your construction minerals, which is things like your dimension stone that you use for ornamental buildings. You have your laterite, you have your granite. And then finally, you have your energy minerals like your coal, your monazite sands, where you get thorium from, even though that technology is a bit too advanced for where Nigeria is right now. And then you also have your bitumen, and then right now, maybe you might want to add lithium there. So everything I've mentioned exists spread across Nigeria, proven. People are mining those things, maybe not in a sophisticated manner, but they're mining to some degree or the other. So yes, these are the minerals that exist in Nigeria, and this is the opportunity. Now, your question is regards how to be more productive in terms of extraction. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So the value chain has a lot of handicaps. The key enablers are not there. Okay, so I'll give you in terms of governance, for example, at state level, it's very difficult for the states to know who has been issued licenses to come and operate in their states because the licenses are issued in Abuja. Yes, you will get a consent from the community, but at the state government level, they're usually blindsided as regards the full details of those who are mining there. Now, the law in Nigeria, which is the Mineral Mining and Mining Act, in Section 19 of the law states that the Mineral Resources and Environmental Management Committee, it's called MIREMCO, at state level is responsible for managing all of the affairs that has to do with mining at state level and providing quarterly reports to the minister to take decisions on. Now, if you look at the composition of such a committee, they come from other ministries and they're made up of state reps of the ministry. There's no technical support. They can't inspect those mines. They don't have geoscience backing. So basically, they're not given the ability to perform their jobs the way they should. And the gap is reflected in the level of malfeasance in the sector, illegal mining, and a whole lot of those. And of course, that has created a situation where state governors are giving executive orders. You know, mining is on the exclusive legislative list, not on the concurrent legislative list. So you shouldn't have a state governor declaring anything concerning mining. But you see that you hear it in the news almost every time. The Bauchi state governor will say this, Plateau state governor says that, because leadership hasn't been able to assert itself in terms of the honorable minister, you know, Alake. The governors here, they don't see him as taking charge, and then they use insecurity, for example, as a reason to shut it down in the states. So there are these kinds of issues at governance level. Then at upstream level, exploration, you know, the exploration environment, exploration funding is very alien to us. A lot of what we do is artisanal and small scale mining, which is basically you let the artisans be the pathfinders. You move one or two excavators there. If you're lucky, you get a good find. It's not systemic, it's not strategic, it's not based on any mine plan. Usually, this is Nigerian mining. So obviously, if you have investors who are not used to such environments or not used to Africa, it poses a challenge. They're not able to leverage the opportunity, no matter how good the opportunity sounds. So that's in terms of exploration. So there's no data basically to present in those conferences and summits we keep going for. NGSA provides only the most basic data as a geological survey agency, hydrological data, geochemistry data, geophysical data, and geological data. It's not specific to anybody's mining operations. It's not specific to determining the resource that you have. So basically, in terms of exploration, Nigeria is very, 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 very far behind even most of African countries. Now, in terms of the midstream activity, processing, you find out that most what we have is a lot of DSO, which is direct shipment, or you mine it and you bag it and you send it to the it goes out. So once you're mining it and you're bagging it, maybe the concentration of mineral of interest is high enough to prevent any or to discourage you from bearing any further processing costs, even though processing will add more value in terms of pricing. You find Nigerians being too lazy for that process. So you mine it, once you blast, you mock up with your wheel loader, you start to bag it. At most, the sorters do some sorting. That's Nigerian processing. This will be alien to most people. Chinese like such environments because they know you are archaic and behind. They can take advantage of such a situation, and that's what they're doing exactly. Nigerians are very, very, they want the fastest way. They are a bit impatient. So people who are impatient are very vulnerable to being cheated heavily, especially when it comes to science and technology, because we're not really big on that. You know, our young people are much bigger on the arts than on science and tech, like the Chinese young people. So it's a systemic failure in that regard. Then you look at downstream activity. You find that one of the things that have killed Nigeria is that the ministry and the Nigerian customs don't talk to each other. So they steal the minerals at the port. If you go and look at native report, and I encourage all of you to look at it, you will find out that what the ministry is reporting as export figure in the native report, and this report is available to everybody here so that you can fact check what I'm saying. What native is reporting that customs says is different from what native is reporting that the Mines Inspectorate Department, who's responsible for collecting royalties, says within the same year. And that's because they're not doing any reconciliation. Now, if you look at the body called Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, they should have standards, right? Yes, but when they come to Nigeria, they forget their standards. Nigeria affects everybody. So they start to do reports where it's clear that even a layman in New York picks up the reports for some just a little lower, going a little lower than the surface. You begin to see the discrepancies. How do I know all of this? Because in my job as consultant to the National Assembly, a lot of this, there's just so much I cannot say here. But it's ridiculous what Nigeria permits sometimes. So the reasons why you will not have the kind of industry you may be talking about or people jumping in is because all of these linkages from governance, upstream, midstream to downstream activity work hand in hand. It's like angel of the last mile. You must be able to evacuate those ores too. Where are the rail? If you invested in the mine in Bauchi and you need to evacuate from a port in Lagos, what roads will you put? Are you going to put 30-ton trucks on the road? How many of them to satisfy your off-taker? So all of these systemic issues have nothing to do with really the miners per se. It's just the seriousness of the country, to understand the value of the sector and then to work on those enablers over a specified period of time. So that's I'll just leave it at that so that we don't belabor the matter. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Tony. I mean, it was actually important to see, you actually bring in a bit of both the explorative as well as the policy angle to it, and of course even the international community, because sometimes we hear all of these things, and we seem not to really understand that the chain that stays from what I call beneath the earth up until the surface, and the pocket money has a layer of challenges that we have to be intentional with how we approach it. And you've been, again, listening to us from the NAPAC-CDI monthly webinar series. Our guest today have been giving us a generic insight into the Nigerian mining sector. Within NAPAC-CDI, our focus is to continue to look at opportunities and figure out how we'll continue to elevate ourselves above the challenges within the different economies we're focused on. As Nigerians, our primary goal is to see how we can complement, the Nigerian economy, leveraging our diverse portfolios of professional expertise, networks, to actually, impact and improve on things. We're a for-profit entity, and we're very focused more on solutions as against the challenges. Having said, today, our speakers have been able to give us a depth insight with regards to, the mining sector. I would go next now to, Mr. Sadiq, who's more on the trading side, for him to actually let us know, referencing, some of the input from Mr. Tony, what's it like trading, some of your goods outside of Nigeria? Again, with reference to what, Mr. Tony also said, what effort are you also taking to see that you improve beyond just exploring the solid minerals, but also maybe even creating product lines out of it, for the end users in terms of large scale consumer users of some of this, this products that you're able to extract? Mr. Sadiq, over to you, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you, everyone. There's so much intellectual property on this podcast, on the on the webinar. It is difficult to answer these questions without going technical and kind of paralyzing the listeners and our audience. I have been trying to crack my mind. How do I pass the message? How do we activate our onlookers to key into this? Do they really understand what we're talking about at this point? I understand what Madam said, what Doctor said. It's not up to us at this point. Like, the world itself is shifting to a net zero target. It has the target of going completely green by 2050. So there is a timestamp. There's a problem we now have, which is it's a deadline, first and foremost. So when you're talking about supplying the world, how do we export? How do we sell what we have? What are the challenges? I think first, critical metals. Do we understand what it is? it is essential for modern technology and economic security. So it's not a case of the world liking you. It's what you can contribute at this point, right? And how does an average or regular Nigerian key in? How does he create wealth? Because one thing we need as many billionaires from Nigeria as possible, global billionaires in USD or more. How do we do that fast and properly? Not necessarily like just super fast, but I mean it's within. There's a target of 2030. There's a target of 2050. When the world converts or leaves fossil fuel technology, especially the vehicles, for instance, let's just take like the electronic vehicles as an example to just give context to the audience. There are 6 metals on each side. The 6 metals that make up the electric vehicle. There are 6 metals that make up the electric vehicle battery. China controls 85% of this sector. They are producing the vehicles for the world. And the Chinese have been locked out, as I said, from a lot of all these places where they sourced the metals. We were allocated 5% of the global resource for these things, but apparently, I think they were rude doing that without our consent. And how do you give us 5%? And they've been here for like 2-3 years, pillaging it. We have aluminium, nickel, and cobalt. Those 3 minerals that I just mentioned are unique to both the electric vehicle and the battery itself. And we have that in Nigeria. Now, on the electric vehicle part, you have copper, rare earth elements, and steel. On the battery side, you have lithium, manganese, and graphite. We are able to have a one-stop shop. All the metals you need to create the vehicle and manufacture the battery, you can find them in Nigeria. We can really be bold enough to say, don't take anything out till it's in a usable form. And we're able to increase our exports. Because you have to ask yourself in all of these big conversations, what do we want? And how are we able to generate wealth, economic security? Like, how are we able to do this? Every other Nigerian kind of has somebody abroad. We have to engage the diaspora in a very deliberate method. And a ton of Nigerians do not have capital. So how do they key into this $1 trillion industry, if you may, is to leverage on your network. You don't need a dime to get into the mining sector. You have the intellectual property, and you need to understand the resource base, which is the resource mapping and the regulatory environment. Secondly, you need to form the strategic partnerships, local partnerships. You need to get involved, ask the right questions. You need to get your international partnerships, like get in touch with your people that you have abroad. We have minerals. Tell them the truth. I don't know much about it, but I can get details. Are you interested? Can you find me those that are interested? Can you find me those that are interested? You would need to invest in technology of the infrastructure, which is the mine technology and processing facilities, of which people don't have that money, but they can initiate the conversation. You need to build skilled workforce, the education and the training, sustainable practices, leverage the markets, advocate for policies that are favorable to us. To answer the issue about how we're able to improve trade, is to be able to block the loopholes. And that has a lot to do with the very average Nigerian that a foreigner would call and say, here is my question. People would need to know on a very broad base what our target is as a country, as a people. So this involves the government, the regulators, but don't forget, we could wake up tomorrow and we have another minister. So these things, we need to leave them first. It's important. The part that the role that they play is critical, But we, the players in there, are more, it's dire for us to have what we don't ship. So whoever comes in is a newcomer. We tell them exactly what the mode of operation is. So we would need to involve a lot of our people in this so that they're able to leverage on network to build some major wealth. And we will need to process. So we are able to process. Majorly, one of the major challenges we have is processes, because what people ask, they ask for high concentrations. For instance, for lithium, they ask for high concentrations of lithium, of which the majority of lithium that you find in Nigeria is the low grades. So we need to be able to bump it up so that a lot of people can get to participate economically. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sadiq. So here is what we'll definitely love to do, because I know we're basically on the hour. But I said earlier, we pretty much focus on solution as against even just the challenges. We do recognize that there is, challenges across virtually all sectors. I mean, I haven't done this for a couple of months now. We see that, the obvious challenges that virtually all sectors actually having to deal with, it's similar to each other. But as a company who's focused on, driving economic impact and growth, also understanding exactly how the terrain works, in maybe just about 5 minutes, starting with Dr. Janet, I want you to actually speak to our diaspora community and potential investor partners that we also have on this call. Not necessarily to pitch, to them about Nigeria, because sometimes the reality, and I'm very blunt to always say this to investors, if you're in for it, you're in for it. If you're not in for it, it's okay. When the time is right, you come knocking, but you're going to pay a higher price. So it's not coming from a place of, we don't know our country, or we do not have a need for, that bridge capital support and technical support. But there's also that willpower and intentionality to be involved, in our local market. And that's what we have to look out for. So I would love for you to actually take the next 2 minutes, and we're going to be very, tight on the time. The next 2 minutes to actually speak to our diaspora community and the investor community. What are some of the things that you want to see start happening from tomorrow in order for us to be able to move the sector forward from your point of view? Dr. Jenny.
Thank you so much, Saheed, and thank you for the two speakers. Well, I love Tony's insights, and I like the balanced information from Sadiq. And I want to just tell the diasporans one thing. That's the most important thing, and I will use your phrase, to be intentional about whatever you choose to do. If you are intentional and you go into that sector because you believe in the sector, you believe in what you want to do. We know what our country is all about. Forget about those lapses in the process of doing it, because if you want to break it down according to what Sadiq has said, number one, who has the reserve estimates? I'm a geologist, current certified, COMEX certified, and I'm also here. Who has the data? Just tell me. Even the factories, the industries you want to build. So you are taking a risk, and every business has its own risk averse. So I want to encourage people who want to go in. If you want to go in, the only thing I always tell people, start small and make it a modular thing where you build up on it. You understand? But when you want to say, oh, I want to go in and I'm going with all the funding, I'm going with everything, you might run into problem. The mining itself is so vast, from exploration to markets. There are about 8 critical stages. So you don't all have to go to the soil and start mining. You could be a logistic person. You could identify the gaps, the problems. There are no laboratories where you need to do testing. Do you know when we want to do testing, we take minerals, you understand, samples to Canada to go and do testing. There are no laboratories. We don't have, so you can decide to bridge that gap and invest there. There are some Indians that are already doing that. You could look at other logistics and look at transportation logistics and see how you want to come in. Government obviously has quite a number of things to do, because how do you do bulk carriage? you still can't do bulk carriage. And you can't blame people who are just carrying their things, because we are the banks. Do banks, do they understand how to support mining? So when we knock government, let us equally knock ourselves. Every average Nigerian is a quick winner. We hate to labor. We just want to strike and get results. Strike and get honey. And mining is not like that. If you come with that attitude, you can never go far. But if you come with the attitude that, oh, let me look at somebody on the ground, partner with that person and do the proper thing by working with people who are certified, by people who understand, you understand, I'm sure you can make a headway. But I hate to see people being discouraged to say, oh, no, Nigeria is, you know, people, if you see some of the local people there, if I show you some samples on my phone of gold, you understand that people are, you understand, locally, you understand, making it to their bars and selling. It's not good enough because government is losing revenue. But what I'm trying to tell you is there's wealth, there's money in the sector. But which aspect of it are you going, and how are you going about it is what matters. So I always seek knowledge, and that is where I want to commend your association. You know, now you have a pool. You can reach to people, you understand, directly or indirectly. If you have an interest in the sector, all you have to do is come to this organization. This organization can do a kind of pairing, a kind of linking. You understand? Some of us are too keen. I run an NGO. I'm too keen, even pro bono. You understand? Where I speak to people, because it's my joy to see Nigeria transformed. We cannot continue to wallow in poverty among resources. You understand? So if you ask people the right questions, I'm sure you get the right answers. But when you two want to go and join in the short changing, then you don't get anywhere. But I believe that with collaboration, because no bank will give you money in mining easily because of the risk. So you need that crowdfunding among yourselves, understand, to be able to, and then identify correct people at home who you think you can relate with, you understand, to be able to do something meaningful. Anything short of that, you might run into disaster and lose your money. Once again, I want to say it's a privilege, you know, to be here. You understand? It's too short to break and analyze all these things within 1 hour. You understand? So if you really want to get this series well, I think especially in the mining sector, because of the peculiarity of the mining sector, you need to serialize it, call in people, and then get perspectives. Because like Tony said, the problems you have in industrial minerals is different from what you have in gemstones. It's different from what you understand. And so you need to, maybe based on challenge, you know, you just have to serialize and break down like that to be able to get far in what you are doing. But generally, I want to tell people that it's a new area for Nigeria. It's a rational area. It's a virgin area. The world is saturated in the West, in Asia, and whatever, and everybody is looking to Africa. But what is their aim? Is it to exploit, to extort? So that is where the diasporans too must jump in, you understand, and make sure they bridge the gap, you understand, such that together we can develop our continent and make something meaningful out of it. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, it appears Mr. Deleye took a moment. We would like for you to answer the same question. I see that we're showing the Project Match website. While that is showing, if Madam did answer that question, if the next guest speaker could take on answering the same question, please. Mr. Sadiq or Soundcare Group?
Okay.
Mr.
Okay, so last week we were at the mayor of Los Angeles. We're at her office, and we also met with the people in charge of the Port of California. They have about $1.3 billion. They are making a revenue of about $1.3 billion per day. Per day.
Wow.
And they are only getting, Africa is getting a piece of that action, just 1% of that action, 1%. They are interested. They are interested in leveraging, because it's the first time you have the Secretary of State's transports being a Nigerian. I mean, he's an American, but, you know, from Nigerian origin. You have a Black mayor. there's a ton of African presence in that part of America now. And they are really interested in supporting the continent on standing on its feet. It is a no-brainer. We are upstream, God-gifted, given upstream. We have the resource. A state like California is the 4th largest economy in the world. Not just, in the world. And they have the downstream. They are making and using these technologies. They have the Silicon Valley here. There are tons of people that were like really excited wanting to come to Africa. There is no access. They don't know about it. Like Ghana are doing door of return. We have just started it. I think it's going to happen sometime in August, this month, or we're just over, but I said August. So there's a door of return Nigeria trying to organize for, Pan-Africans and those that love Africa and have, the best intentions for Africa at heart. We need to create an avenue. We need to leverage, because it's not even about creating. There are already avenues for people to come into Africa, new market entry. Like my Oga said, the genre of Africans are interested in the arts more than the science. However, the relationship between science and arts has always been a very thin line. People understand money. Even if they don't understand science, they understand money. One thing that we do. Yes. So this is the opportunity for both diaspora and Africans and Nigerian, our African people, base people like we're here right now. This is the time to key in with free of charge. You just need to put in the effort. You need to be able to unearth your network and initiate the conversation. That's really the point. I want us to be able to take home something that you can make the call to everyone you know that is in diaspora, that is outside the continent of Africa, that has the love of Africa at heart. Even if they don't have the love of Africa at heart, they want to
they want to make money.
Basically, because sometimes that's the sentiments that we refuse to divorce. It's not really about them liking us. At this point, they need the minerals, and there's a target, and we are able to leverage on it. Madam, we have gold. I understand what you mean about the craze of lithium and everything and the critical metals. I think it's because we knocked the doors of Wall Street for months. That's the story for another day of how we had to survive in New York, knocking these doors. We're telling these guys, listen, we have good gold. 98.9% gold we brought. We kept on. These guys, Americans don't easily just come to Africa. They use junior miners to come. Junior miners come in and they deal with our geopolitical issues so that they have that buffer. I hope I don't lose anyone here. The idea is that today, Saturday, there are tons of diasporan Africans that can make money today. Might not go into your account today, but because you initiate the conversation, you can have people, you can at least get their attention. So that's really the point. I would like all of us to initiate the conversation with anyone you have abroad. Just tell them, listen, there's a target that the whole world is turning towards. Don't forget, once these guys, in about 6 years, once they want to review the target, once they want to move away from the fossil fuel, where are all those cars coming to? Wild guess, it's going to be the third world. So they're going to push all of this garbage to us, get the mineral from us, and make us the last people to use it. It's on us. It's really, at this point, nobody, like what happened with the GSM? What happened? Nigeria almost level played everywhere. Like, they were shocked at which, from not having phones, from just having NITEL lines to like everybody even in the market owns a phone. So technological wise, we're blessed by God, we're able to skyrocket it. This is a chance we need to leverage upon, that whatever we make from it, we can now get into those things like the gold that isn't going anywhere, that can replace any currency. That is something that we have the strength to do. We can replace any currency with just the gold we have. So, ladies and gentlemen, the time is now for us. What do we want? We want to increase like modern technologies, economic growth, want to increase exports majorly, and want to
promote trade.
Promote trade, definitely. The technological issues is not up to us, right?
Hello,
We need to
báwo?
leverage on the people. We need to leverage on the people that have
Èèyàn mi
it,
báwo ni?
basically. Thank you.
Hello? So one
Thank you so much, Mr. Sadiq. And again, just as Dr. Janet Ratley said, you know, it's really on us trusting reliable resources and platforms for us to be able to get this activation started. I mean, a whole lot of the Nigerian diasporans, of course, still have family back at home, and we know a lot of them are getting feedback. But the question is how credible and how resourceful those contact base and those references that they're relying on to take informed decisions. And again, this is the reason why platforms like NAPAC-CDI is actually here. We're a for-profit entity. We're run by Nigerians who are not just first or second generation Americans. No, these are individuals who were born, raised in Nigeria, started a career path in Nigeria, and now pushing the narrative to give back home, not just from the words of saying it, but actively and intentionally being involved in the process of this, again, economic transformation. Having said, we are on the hour of 12:45 local time here. We appreciate each and every one of you that has been able to join us for this webinar today. The whole essence of this webinar series is to give you an insight into the Nigerian economy. Since the last couple of months, what we've been doing is a generic insight into the industry and the various sectors that we've actually focused on. And of course, as our special guest also did mention, we will be breaking down into more focused, specific areas of conversation within these sectors as we progress through the course of this webinar series. So please be patient with us. Be excited about what comes, after now. We're not just, here to actually have conversation and showcase to you our network or the depth of knowledge that our network also have about the industry. We're intentionally focused on actually addressing some of these issues. So we will be following up with most of our guest speakers for us to develop what I would call, the NAPAC-CDI diaspora roadmap on how we basically transform all of these conversations into practical results so we can come back in less than a year from today and actually give back to the people to say, these are some of the things that we talked about. These are the steps that we have taken, and these are the solutions that we also, preferring to it, not as government, but as private sector entity, because again, the goal is to also monetize and create job opportunities and improve on the economy, with what we are actually doing. I would basically yield now to Mr. Tony, who would also share his closing thoughts on, a focused conversation with the diaspora. I know you've been a diaspora yourself, so you understand the mindset, how things are here. You understand also what, the process of leveraging capital from the international community is. But I think it's time we galvanize, focused funding within the diaspora community, targeting, improving on some of those sectors. So, Mr. Tony, sir, please take this opportunity to actually, speak directly to the diaspora community, the investor community out there for a charge of action. Mr. Tony?
Yeah, I think just like Dr. Adeyemi said, you need to have the right mindset, reminding. There are quick wins, no doubt, but for every quick win, you have to have understanding to even identify the quick win. So it's understanding of the sector that probably will take time. So what I would say to them is, before you leap to talk to anyone, do your homework, understand the sector, read, ask questions, put your thoughts together properly, understand what the mineral is, understand the value chain of whatever mineral of interest, understand what an enablers are, because without knowledge about a thing, it's difficult to tell you anything else. So my thing and my only thing is get to the diasporans is, first of all, get the knowledge, put in the hours. For everyone who takes professional exams, the energy you put in. Put that same level of energy in, you will see the results. No pain, no gain. If anyone who was expecting it to be a joyride, just like Dr. Adeyemi says, yes, the opportunities are there. Just like Sadiq says, yes, start the conversation. But the conversation will definitely lead you to want to understand and study more so that you sound smart enough to even, convince anyone to get involved, because you must understand what you're saying. Convince yourself before you convince a third party. So you must be convinced. And without saying too many words, I think knowledge is what is critical. The knowledge gap is wide. If it shortens, you will be able to, everyone, it doesn't matter, diaspora or we're here in Nigeria, in diaspora, you'll be able to identify the opportunities very quickly. So my thing to diasporans is get knowledge. One, get knowledge and get knowledge. That's my thing.
Thank you so much. I mean, what better way to wrap up than to actually charge us to, acquire more knowledge even about the home country we all are passionate about. I mean, thank you so very much. It's been an opportunity, to bring to you the NAPAC-CDI monthly webinar series. We have this webinar series every first Saturday of every month, exactly at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Depending on your local time, would always love to reach out and actually be a part of this, community of professionals who are actively engaging on conversations that create business opportunities, translates into monetization, and of course, expanding our robust network across the entire, workforce. Having said, please take time to visit our platform, NAPAC-CDI, which is basically shared and communicated in the chat box. We would love to hear from you, what you would like to explore, what opportunities you'd like to embark on, and also what your feedback is from some of this webinar series of ours. Of course, we're not able to take all questions. We've been able to at least address some of the questions we're seeing in the chat box. But if there are specific questions that we're not able to cover, please reach out to us. We'll be able to channel you to the right, networks and also address some of those concerns. To some of our partners, to some of our sponsors that actually made this possible, we say a big thank you to each and every one of you. We're excited about the growth potential of what we're doing and what also lies ahead for us. For some of our partners, such as Dr. Janet, I know she's got upcoming events later in the year. We will be circulating, that information across to each and every one of you. We would likely, be a part of it as well in person, perhaps with the approval of my CEO. You just never know. So again, it's been a privileged opportunity. Thank you all for the time taken to join us today. I will definitely yield to my CEO right now, who would actually close us out, to our special guest. I mean, you all have been amazing, and I'm really blessed that, you have been able to share very open, candid, and direct, unapologetic feedback and insight into the sector. I continue to wish you all the very best in all that you're doing. Charge you all never to look back. You always have a room with us here at NAPAC-CDI. We would follow up with you in the course of the week or the coming week on, actionable steps that we're going to take in order for us to, improve on some of this conversation. Again, thank you all. It's been a pleasure coming to you from the NAPAC-CDI team. Dr. Veronica, you could close us out now.
All right, thank you so much. So we're so grateful. Sorry everyone for the noisy, scratchy, but he had great roundup to share. Dr. Adeyemi, we adore you. Oh my goodness. What a great role model you are. And look at the pace you're creating in Nigeria. Thank you. I think people are energized and people didn't even know about all these opportunities. So thank you for opening our minds. We will connect people to all of you. Mr. Sadiq, you're young and promising and you're the future, and I see you soaking it up. Mr. Tony, Soundcare Group, we're so excited. All you young minds, we're so glad to have Dr. Adeyemi as a role model, and we're so excited to have you young minds in that industry. The Chinese are aggressive. We need to be even more aggressive because it's our land. So let's, energize people with all of the information you shared today. We're so grateful, so happy. And we hope that you'll come back. We have questions that we'll send to you. We hope that you can help us answer those questions so we can put it in our social media. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our management team, our Madam CEO. You can say hi. Madam CEO is the CEO of NAPAC-CDI. She's waving, Mrs. Lara Okunubi. And thank you for all that you do, Mrs. Okunubi. Great leadership. Mr. CFO, Mr. Doherty, I don't see him, but I'm sure he's there. Thank you. We're so grateful. We hope that you'll come back because I think there will be another opportunity for us to hear more. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Every fourth Saturday of the month from 8:30 to 9:45, we're here to find out opportunities, brain drain in Nigeria, because we're all jackpot. We want to jackpot that. We want to take it back. So So we're so glad that you're helping us. Bridget, I'm telling you, you gave us a lot of new information. Yes, yes, ma'am. So we got to Jai Pada to Nigeria. So we're very excited that you've given us things we didn't even know today. The data, so you don't have to be a miner. There's all sorts of connected opportunities, and people are so scared, but you're reassuring people that it's not as scary. You're there. Look at you. You look great. So home is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll see you September, the first Saturday from 8 a.m. to 9:45. The chair of our board and the founder of this whole organization is here, Mr. Ademola Okusoya, Esquire, an attorney in Los Angeles. He and Madam CEO made this happen for us. So thank you, everyone. Come back. Thank you, Nigeria. We feel like jumping through that screen and join you at home right now because you all look awesome.
Tony, Sadiq, I'll be sending you letters, understand, as actors on the scene. So I'll take your contacts from, I know Tony, but Sadiq can see your fresh face for the first time. So I'll take your contacts from Adeleye so that we can continue our conversation at home. You know?
Exactly, ma'am.
So it's nice to meet you all, and it's an opportunity.
No problem, madam.
Yeah, thank you. God bless
Yeah,
you.
Dr. O, I see you there. You want to show face? Dr. O, thank you. We hope there you are from...
Excellent work. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much, honorable and august speakers. Thank you. We appreciate you.
We're so glad.
Yes.
We're so glad to have Nkechi, Rahanatu, our social media. So check us out, all of our social media. Rahanatu is always posting. You can read up. Thank you, Nkechi. Thank you, Millicent, Mr. Tayo Adewumi. Thank you. Techno US, Inahobong. Thank you. Marilyn Iwanwu. Thank you. Annie Oyinye. Thank you. Vicky. Thank you. You were one of the first to get in here. Roy, thank you. Kehinde, thank you. We're just so excited to have all of you. Dr. Rose Margaret, thank you for Sharon Bassi, Eddie Young, Anolu Akpo, thank you. Blessing, thank you. Mary Jane, thank you. Kehinde, Tunde Osho, thank you. Osho, and Fatima Raji, thank you. Nike, Esther James, Oluchi Maduago, Ifechukwu Day, Adobe, Vanessa, Yusuf, Blessing Bassi, Princess B, Femi, Tinu, thank you. We're just so excited and grateful. Faith, thank you. ANC Global, do business with us, thank you. iPhone, I don't know who you are, but thank you for being here. We're just so excited to have you all. We are here every first Saturday of the month from 8:30 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, California time. So please join us. There's a lot of opportunities for business in Nigeria. We encourage you to consider Nigeria a place to go give back and make money. It's really happening. Thank you, everybody, and have a fantastic weekend. We're just so grateful for your time. Bring your friends because there's opportunities. We are exploring and bringing it to you. We're talking to public leaders and private partners, and we just need to give back. We can't all keep criticizing Nigeria. It takes all of us to make the change. Everybody loves Nigeria. We're trending in the world, so let's take the advantage now to go do business at home. So thank you and goodbye. All right. All right. So there we go. Let me see. Select all. Thank you. Thank you. Coffee. Okay, goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Rahanatu, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. You are just awesome. I just love all the social media handles. People just need to go to our website and then click on any of our social media.
As their social media handles, please. Facebook at NAPAC-CDI.
Facebook, yeah, Facebook is there. We also are trending in YouTube. So YouTube. So you can catch up on all these conversations, and we'll get those answers for you, and we'll have it trending as well. So there were questions asked that they didn't have time to. We'll ask them and we'll post them in our social media handles. So we'll
quick question.
Yes. Yes.
I think you set up this. I didn't know it was the same Zoom call number.
Yes.
I have a meeting that should be starting about now.
Okay, so let me go ahead and close this so we can come right back.
No, you don't need to be there. It's just the Octave Smart Care and the investor. Remember, you had set up some Zoom?
Yes, I did.
So I guess it's the same one, right?
I think maybe not, but
no, I think
Dr. Veronica, please, can you end this call?
Yeah, that's why I was gonna do that. Mr. Doherty, let me end it, then we'll come back. Then I'll call you too.
No, I